everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sam Popple, along with my partner in crime, William McClelland. How you doing today, Will?
I'm back in action, baby. I'm super stoked about today's episode. A lot of people have requested this. It's probably one of the most popular investor strategies, or at least the most talked about. And we're just hopping in now. So really excited, especially because this is something that I know both you and I are interested in and want to really dive into outside of all new construction.
Right.
Yeah, without any further ado, give the intro.
Yeah, man. So I've known Daniel Tidwell, for probably about a year now through social media. I've been following his stories. He's a full-time fix and flipper, father of two. His wife's his favorite realtor. He's just an awesome guy. I really love watching his content because he definitely is showing stuff on how you can save money on your flips, and showing you how to do things. So it's very informative. So without further ado, welcome Daniel Tidwell to the show.
Let's go.
Hey, what's up, y'all? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you
today? Good. Just another day.
I heard it, man. I heard it. So we're just going to dive right in. Give a little brief overview of what you do, your company, and tell us a little bit of life before real estate too.
Yeah, man. Company's name's Tidwell Properties. I don't have a big company. It's somewhat of a one-man show. I hire a lot of stuff out. My father-in-law works with me. He's semi-retired, but I keep him busy. So it's kind of a family thing. And like you said, my wife's my realtor. So we're kind of a small company, but we flip full-time. It's my full-time job. I started in 2020, so I've been going about 4.5 years now.
In the height of COVID, really?
Yeah. And we planned it all out late 2019, so we didn't even know COVID was a thing. We were living in Georgia, right outside of Atlanta, and just decided we wanted to move to the Florida Gulf Coast. And we were listening to some podcasts. Real estate kind of hit a vein, and I consumed everything I could about real estate and flipping houses. So we did it in May 2020, moved down, started a real estate business, and it's been great. We've been blessed, and we're just, I love what I do. I love being hands-on.
I love it.
And we just love the transformations of taking ugly houses and making them pretty.
I love it.
What made you and your wife choose Northwest Florida?
Yeah, I'm originally from Pensacola.
Okay.
So we're familiar with the area, but we always vacation in Destin. Anytime we left Atlanta, we came south. So
awesome.
They said, hey, move to the water. Why not?
Easy enough. So something I think there's always like little golden nuggets that a lot of our guests say, and something that I just caught there was you were consuming knowledge more than you ever had before. You were engulfing yourself, using the Gulf of Mexico there, but engulfing yourself with knowledge there. And then you went head first. Tell us a little bit about who you were listening to, what that looked like, and then how you made the jump. Especially, you said May, and COVID hit in March, right? So that's like a crazy transition.
Right. It was the toughest time ever.
Yeah.
I started listening to just a couple different real estate podcasts. There was one that kind of took you from, it was like 0 to 100 days or something. And it was what to do every week to kind of get your real estate business up and running. And a lot of it was about wholesaling. So I was really learning kind of how to find deals and those sort of things. I had a job. I was working in field maintenance, athletic field maintenance. So I had a lot of time to kind of have the headphones in.
Sure.
So I was able to listen to a lot of stuff and just really get a handle on, what do I need to be doing first? Because it's just hard to know where to start.
Definitely.
That was really helpful. That was Don Costa had a podcast.
And then
that's really cool. I actually want to highlight that for our listeners that, you started off with a kind of pretty much a very, hands-on, hardworking, sweat all day kind of job, but then in that job, you still found a way that you can consume knowledge, while you were working, and then we're able to elevate your life from there. I mean, I think that is because there's so many people that think they're just stuck at their job and they go work their job and do nothing beyond that. And you're evidence that you can be learning well on the job and going to the next level.
Right.
Totally. Yeah, and like you said, you're in Metro Atlanta, so we all have been in Atlanta traffic, right? So to all you commuters out there and things like that, this is the time. If you don't have enough time in the day, where are there things that you can fit it in simultaneously, like Daniel did? Being able to have a little windshield time or time to yourself while Did you do golf or what type of field maintenance?
Yeah, it was ball field. So a lot of high school baseball, football, soccer, a couple colleges.
Sweet.
We had a lot of time.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood. You said you were in Pensacola, and then were you just born here and then grew up in Atlanta, or tell us a little bit about that and maybe, college or after high school?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I lived in Pensacola since I was 2.
Okay.
So I grew up there 2 through about 20. And my dad was an entrepreneur. He had a coupon book business, but pretty much my whole life, he was a business owner.
Wait, is this the one you buy from the elementary school?
He would, yeah, it was a coupon book business. And so schools would sell them. He'd go into schools and the kids would sell them as fundraisers, but he had restaurants and stuff in there. And
I've been on both sides. I sold them when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then also
our restaurants are English books.
I buy them. I think I might have one
fundraise savings book.
Fundraise. Yeah, I have one in my glove compartment.
So yeah, he started that company.
No way. That's years. Awesome. That's so funny.
So yeah, I kind of grew up, just seeing that self-employment. So I guess it kind of ingrained in me, like, hey, you may run your own business. And my grandfather and my dad both had rental properties. They would buy a house and then just keep it when they moved to the next house. So there was a little bit of real estate in there already. But honestly, I wanted to be a mechanic. Like, I was a teenager. I loved cars, loved working on stuff. I was pretty hands-on. I actually went to college for that. So I got an associate's degree in auto mechanics, 2-year degree. Decided I'd rather go more into the engineering side of things rather than, getting my knuckles dirty and fingernails greasy every day. And went over to South Alabama in Mobile, but dude, I am not a school guy. Like, I could barely get through the 200 level classes. And so I kind of quit that. I kind of ran out of money. And my cousin called me up and said, hey man, I got a job up here in Atlanta, just started this company. You want to come up here and work with me? And so I went up there for 8 years. And then my wife and I got married up there. We had both of our kids, and just decided to move back here to the water.
Awesome. Did you and your wife meet up there, or did you guys know each other before that?
Our families were living in Pensacola, and she was too. So our families connected, then we connected, and then she moved up to Atlanta to be with me, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love that. That's cool, man.
Cool. Well, and you kind of already then mentioned it, because I was going to ask you if anyone in your life, early in your life, kind of inspired you to get into real estate. It sounds like you did have some family influence there with those rentals.
Sure. And I honestly, the thing that really pushed me into it was working on my own house, because I'd worked on cars, that was great. But then we bought a house and we needed to work on the house. And so I just figured stuff out as I lived there, and I somewhat renovated a kitchen, and it just kind of came natural, and I liked it. I was like, I really like doing this stuff. And that's what kind of pushed me. Hey, you could fix houses for a living,
Cool. So that, that scenario is what led you to Don Costa and the podcast, or how'd you get there?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I'd looked up either sales podcast or a real estate. I think I'd looked up both. I was like, look, I can either work on houses or I can be in sales somehow. And so I listened to 2 different podcasts. I only got through one sales podcast, and I went through like 30 episodes of the real estate podcast. So that was pretty obvious which one I needed to pursue.
Love it. We're like trying to timestamp that in 3 years. We're hoping that we have someone on the podcast that is like listening to all 30 of our episodes, and they're gonna come back to Daniel Tidwell's and be like, oh man, he inspired me so much. So
awesome.
With that, tell us a little bit about life today. You're in the Panhandle, you're back by the water, by the beach, hanging out, and you're absolutely crushing flips, which I know is the hot topic, and everyone wants to hear about it. So we're excited.
Yeah. I mean, or a little humility. I don't feel like I'm crushing flips, but you know, you always have to have a bigger goal than where you're at currently, you know? So
I love that.
that's right. But yeah, I think we've got 5 deals going right now. And honestly, things have picked up a lot just in the last 4 or 5 months. But yeah, we usually are doing 3 to 4 at a time. And I'll flip 12 to 15 every year. And I usually take on a few pet projects. So I can't work on all of them myself. There's just not enough time in the day. It's a lot of work. So I hire a lot of stuff out. But I'm kind of being project manager on all of them. And between my father-in-law and I, we're working on some of them hands-on ourselves. Like I'm in there painting and I'm installing doors and putting kitchens in. And that's kind of the stuff I love. But it is really nice if I kind of have one pet project house and then I've got 3 or 4 that's all hired out. So I know stuff's happening even if I'm not doing it. But I also still get to swing a hammer and work with my hands and have fun doing that too. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I don't want to give up working on houses. That's why I got into real estate and I just love it.
So how'd you get to the point where you could, hire out? I'm sure a lot of listeners don't even know a point to start. And so where would you lead them to start for one house? And let's take it in 2 scenarios. First scenario, you're working on it and you have the time. And then second scenario, trying to build a business, or maybe you don't have time because you have a full-time W-2 and you're trying to hire things out. Because that's the cool thing about Daniel, guys, is he's doing both simultaneously. So he has all the knowledge in both avenues. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have the time, then you have to hire it out. You know, you hear the stories of people who try to flip one by themselves and they can't get over there till 5 p.m. and they work till 8, and it's just never going to get done. It's going to take 9 months, and holding costs are a big deal when you're flipping. So the quicker you can get it done, the better. And so if you can hire stuff out, that's great. And that's the way to scale. You know, if you're going to build a business and you want to build something that maybe eventually can work yourself out of, or that runs without you, then you got to hire everything out. And it's tough, it helps to have a little bit of knowledge. Like the very first house I worked on, I was in there the whole time, hands-on. I was in there with all the contractors. Every day I went there and I kind of learned the schedule, of rehab. And so once you kind of figure out the rehab schedule, then you got to find your contractors and you can organize them and time them appropriately. So it's still running smooth, but you can manage everything from a distance. You can get photos from them. You can go check on it once a week. You don't have to be there every single day. And it really helps if you can hire it out that way. You have to be able to get on the phone, call the contractors, find the people that you like and trust, and just start lining them up.
How have you found most of your contractors and subcontractors?
Yeah, great.
Honestly, just relationships and contacts. So when I first got into it, I wholesaled my first house, and the person who bought that house, she had her contractor over there, and I met him just from being in the same vicinity. I said, "Oh, hey man, what's your name? Do you do flips? Do you work on stuff?" And so I got his contact, and then from there you just kind of meet people. Or I asked the contractor, "Who do you like to work with?" If it's a framer, I go, "Wait, who's your favorite drywall guy?" And or ask the painter, "Who's your favorite drywall guy?" And,
sure. And who's the favorite trim guy? So they're not dinging up all the drywall guys' work.
Yep. And so that's helped a lot. And just relationships. People know that I flip houses, so I'll have friends that say, "Hey, my buddy's just starting a business," or "Hey, my guy's got this or that." And honestly, those are the contractors you need. You don't want. It's a fine line when contractors, because you want quality, but you can't pay the maximum price,
Right.
So you don't want like some national company coming in and doing all your plumbing, because they're going to be the most expensive, but you also don't want the guy who's like a one-man show, because he's just not going to be quick. He's going to be backed up, and you want that mid-sized small company who's got 3 to 7 employees. And those guys are kind of hard to find because they don't advertise a lot. You don't see their vans or their trucks everywhere. So it's really about relationships when it comes to finding those contacts, that you can kind of still call the owner and say, hey man, can you come over here and do this? Instead of going through the call center or something.
Sure.
For relationships, man, it's just.
I think that's something that's come up every single podcast. What about you, Sam? Is like, it's all about networking, this networking game and business in general, right? It doesn't necessarily have to go hand in hand only to real estate, but it's a damn good marriage, yeah, networking, being in that vicinity, right? But something that the listeners might not be as privy to, that you went through, just because it is something really important, is you kind of brushed through holding costs, right? You said you can't necessarily do everything by yourself because you'll get eaten, by holding costs. So can you kind of
And after you answer that, I got a great follow-up question. Does that Will's head in the direction that I was thinking as well? So yeah, go ahead and answer what Will's saying.
Yeah, that's why we have a business together. We're thinking alike.
Yeah. The holding costs are something, when you're just starting out, and if you want to scale, you're kind of financing these deals. You're either using private money or hard money or a combination of both, and we can get into that later. But it costs money every month to hold a house, a couple $1,000 depending on your interest rate and all this other stuff. And then it's all the other stuff. It's utilities, and it's insurance, the big one in Florida, and it's taxes you don't realize until you sell it, or when you buy it, you kind of pay it at closing. So all that stuff combined, it really adds up. It's several $1,000s a month just to hold a property while you're flipping it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you can get one done in 3 months by hiring things out versus 9 months by doing it yourself, and then you do have to pay those upfront labor costs, it's for listeners who are new, it's worth it, is what you're saying, right?
Right. And the other small caveat there is your capital is held up. So if you only have a limited amount of cash, or lenders or investors or whatever, it takes 9 months to do a deal. Well, you held the money for 9 months. Even if you pay a little bit more to be done in 3 months, that money's freed up to buy another house that 4th month, and you can recycle that money quicker. So that's kind of one of the things that people don't realize, that usually you just calculate closing or holding costs, but you don't think about opportunity costs that you're missing from taking longer on the deal. You can recycle it into the next one.
Sure.
Right. Well, and that goes kind of right into what I was going to ask you was, how do you finance your deals? And I actually want to re-ask that in 2 ways. How did you finance your deal when you started, and then versus now that you're 4 years in, and that people kind of know you, who you are, and know what you do, and know you're successful at it? How are you financing them now? Because I'm sure financing is probably a little bit easier today than your first house, is it?
Sure, a little bit. And to be completely honest, we have ridden the ride up from 2008. So we've been buying and selling our personal residences, and we kind of do a live-in flip to where we buy something outdated, live in it, fix it up and sell it. And we've always made money, but we've rolled that into our next residence. And so when we moved to Florida, we sold our house in Georgia, but we rented here. So we had, if I'm being honest, we had $100,000, $120,000 in equity from our house that we were able to use as kind of a down payment and to fund some of the rehabs on our first deal. But I did use hard money. So a hard money lender, most people know what that is. But with a hard money lender, they're going to finance the majority of the purchase price. I think they did maybe 85%, and I had to bring the rest of the cash. But then they'll pay for 100% of your rehab, but you have to front the construction costs. So you still need 20, 30 grand to kind of float until they'll pay you back on a draw. So that's the money I used in the beginning. And now I have a combination of private money and hard money. So private money is just people, friends, family that have a little cash sitting on the side, and they want to invest it in your business or in deals specifically, and they get a set return. And so they'll invest in our business. And what I've been doing currently is a combo. So I'll take someone's money, say it's 50 grand or something, and I will tie that. I'll put that 50 grand as a down payment, and it'll be the first, kind of the first iteration for my rehab costs. But then I'll use hard money, which will bring the majority of the purchase price, and then they'll refund me for the construction cost. So I don't have to come out of pocket any, and it's really easy to scale up that way because I'm not cash strapped, because I only need maybe $20,000 to $30,000 to do a house if I'm using hard money. So I can kind of do it. You know, you got $100,000, that's 3 houses you can do with just that $100,000 from a private investor. So that's really helped. That really helps you scale up, because then you don't, a deal comes along, you go, oh man, I don't have the money. Well, it's pretty easy to scale up when it only takes that much. And you know, if you've got $300,000 in private investors and you're tying it in with hard money, you can do 10 houses at once with just $300,000.
So that's really cool. And I'm sure a lot of people will definitely be hitting you up specifically on this part of the episode.
And there is one thing I was wanting to highlight there, because I feel like you kind of went over it kind of quick, and I do think it was a real big thing. So, and I want to be clear, I'm not an accountant or a financial advisor, so verify everything I'm saying, listeners. But I do know that if you live in a home for at least 2 years out of the previous 5, then you can avoid short-term capital gains, and it goes to long-term capital gains. And I think that's what you were.
2 years in a day.
Yeah, and I think that's what you were saying, that how you and your wife, were able to kind of build that $100,000 and $120,000 nest egg was from buying a house that wasn't the dream home, needed work, get in there, live there for 2 years, get it all right, then you sold it, took that money, did it again, and then that's what eventually added up to the nest egg that got you started. So. No, really, that's a cool way to do it. Real great way to make money in real estate. So yeah, just definitely want to highlight that for everybody. But Will, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
No worries. What I was going to kind of touch on outside of that is that's totally that's huge for anyone, right? I don't want to discount that, because if you can qualify and you're still working a W-2 and you're not ready to technically be an investor, owning your home and then building and saving and doing a little bit of rehab and things on your primary residence, and then selling, with the forefront and forethought that you're going to sell this in probably 2 years in a day, and not have to pay necessarily those capital gains. And if you're doing like a crazy residence and then you're making more than $250,000 off of it, there's a whole bunch of other things. Like we said, we're not accountants and things, so you guys can look through it. But that's a great way for a lot of people just to get, introduced into being an investor. And that's what Daniel did, right? So, and now he's extremely successful. So, not trying to reinvent the wheel. And then that's why you guys are listening to this episode, trying to catch some golden nuggets. There's already been one already.
I'm sure he made a few of the mistakes he would have made on his first few flips, probably on his own houses. So probably when he started flipping houses to sell, he probably knew how to do a lot of things a lot better. Am I right?
Sure. Yeah, I learned a lot about order of operations.
Yeah, which is something I do want to kind of go back to, because that's something that we were talking about, that you said in that very first flip that you were working on. You learned the order of operations, right? And who needs to come after who. Can you give, and this can just be like a basic 8-step timeline of like demo, okay, see where we're at, clear things out. Obviously, you're going to need some sort of architectural design with cabinets and things like that. So once you have that kind of in the forethought, you're going to see where insulation is, rewiring, doing everything that's in the framing process, throwing some drywall in, getting the trim in, paint, staging, listing. But these are, it's not my expertise, right? So if you could go through and just kind of give the listeners maybe like a 60-second synopsis of what that order of operations looks like for Tidwell Properties and how to be successful, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I cheated a little bit when I started. I'll just start with this. Because I was on Bigger Pockets a little bit, that website, and a lot of guys just give out free resources. I found a lot of stuff through like Brent Daniels, and just a lot of guys give out free resources. And one of the guys had a cheat sheet. He said, "Here's my process of operations." So it was real easy to find it. Just
love it.
He gave it to them. We're like, "Oh, that's easy." It's right there. But yeah, usually when we first buy a house, it's waterproofing. Almost every house I buy needs a roof. If it's been leaking for any time, water is your biggest killer of any house. It's waterproofing. So it's usually my first call as a roofer. So we put a roof on first thing, and then you get into the framing, roughing stuff. So rewire if it needs a replumb, all the stuff behind the walls. Obviously we demo before that so we can get to the back of the walls. So it's all that kind of stuff. And then after you do all the roughing stuff, then you can get your drywall up, and that's kind of like a halfway point. So it's makes a big difference if the house is opened up and you got studs showing everywhere and ceilings are down. All of a sudden, all the drywall goes in. You go, this place is coming together.
Yeah.
Popping on with energy, finally. So we get to drywall, and then we go ahead and paint, and then we do floors. So if you're painting, you can spray. So you don't have to plastic off your floors, because you put floors down, then you paint, you're dripping paint all over it or spraying. So we paint pretty early, and then we put down floors, then we throw in the kitchens and the bathrooms. And I mean, you're kind of there at that point. You got floors and touch-ups and the final electrical, so all your lighting and all your cute stuff. Then all the finished plumbing. And that's about it. It's, it just, once you get the walls up and the drywall in, then you just kind of roll through with all the stuff you're going to see in the end, the final product.
I love it.
My wife comes through and helps you pick out those fixtures and stuff to go up.
She's trained me well. Yeah. She helped out a lot in the beginning. And she still does now, but she's surprised sometimes the stuff I pick out. She's like, wow, that is really pretty. I said, train me well, babe. Thank you.
I love it. It makes her job easier too, right? On the sell, on the sales side, like everything that you're doing, if you have someone that's, doesn't have a trained eye like you and your wife, and you are spending all of this money and it turns out not looking great, even though it's all new, that thing's going to sit. You have to, then instead of just being in the majority of the buyer's eye, you're like waiting on that person to kind of find the diamond in the rough, as you'd want to say. So like staying up to date with trends and things like that. How do you think you guys do that?
Well, I was going to say one thing people can do, find a house that sold on the MLS and kind of sold in good time. Find one that was already flipped. And if it didn't sit on the market, if it went fast, dude, just copy it.
I love it. I love it.
Who cares? Like, these people who bought that house aren't going to see your house. Like, just copy it. So if they have wood vanities and black fixtures and all this, you can just, hey, I want my house to kind of look like that. If that one sold fast, people seem to love it. So that's one trick that, hey, it's okay to copy somebody else's style.
What's the fastest one? How long's the quickest flip you've done? And then what was the longest flip you've done?
We've done a couple that were short. That I did one just recently that was really just a rewire and some painting. And it was like a 1 month process, because you do the rewire, then we had to get drywall fixed, and then we paint it. It sat on the market because the market's a little slower right now, and it wasn't like a full out renovation, so it wasn't absolutely beautiful. But that was like a 1 month renovation. The longest one took about 10 months. And that's because I was doing all the work myself, or a lot of it. And it was a huge house. So we learned real quick. It was like a 2,500 square foot house. It was just me and my father-in-law. It took us like 2 weeks to paint the whole thing because it was huge. And so that one drug on a lot longer than I wanted it to. I should have hired more out on that one. But the smaller ones, man, you get a little townhouse or 1,000 square foot place and you want to work on it yourself, it'll go a lot quicker if it's a much smaller house.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Touching back a little bit on private money, I think that's something cool that you had mentioned, is that now you're working with a combination of private and hard. And so are you able to essentially use the private money first, and then when you get that first draw, which we've talked about before, those draws are when the bank will give you back money on either the construction process, new construction, or the rehab. Now, are you paying back those private equity people off first draw, or does it all happen at the end of the deal?
Two ways we can do that. If someone's bringing a lot of money, like over $100,000, or the majority of the purchase price, a lot of times they will want a lien on the property just to give them safety and security. And And so if someone's bringing more than 100 grand, I'll give them that position. And so they're tied to that property specifically. So I don't pay out till the end, and it's just a set interest rate. And so in that deal, I really don't pay any private investors throughout the deal.
Gotcha.
When you say set interest rate, you just mean that up front you guys agree to a flat percentage and it doesn't change based on if you pay them back in 30 days or 9 months. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, flat interest rate. One thing we did early on, and it's worked out well. I've done a 6-month minimum. So I'll tell people, I'll talk with the investors and we'll say, look, you're guaranteed this amount of interest, whether it takes me 30 days or 6 months. But if it goes over 6 months, we have moved it up 1% per month. So the investor's kind of like, all right, well, I'm expecting my money in 6 months. If it takes longer, hey, I wanted it back sooner, but I'm making 1% more every month that goes over, so I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And that's been kind of a cool thing that's worked really good for a lot of guys.
I like that.
It's incentive for everybody. It keeps the investor happy. They're making more money, and it inspires me to get done quicker because it's costing me more money.
Sure.
It could be drastic if you get past that deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. Most all of them have a maximum of 12 months. We've never gone over a year.
Perfect.
Oh, that's good. Now, something else that I think is really cool is how did you transition from just hard money into that private money, and what's that pitch like? What is the background, and how do you get introduced to these people, or are a lot of them just people seeing the success and then it's that aura of networking and what you're doing in a positive light?
Yeah, I mean, what pushed me there was hard money was expensive.
Sure.
There's upfront cost, there's points up front, there's origination fees, and then they have a lot of requirements. You got to go through appraisals, and it was a little harder 3-4 years ago. Now it's gotten a lot more streamlined, so it's not as bad. But it pushed me into private money because it's just a flat rate and it's simple. And it started off with family. You got parents or uncles or whoever. Honestly, you kind of know who may have some money sitting around, especially in savings, and people who've been in the workforce 30 years or something. They probably have some savings, and they already trust you, especially if it's family or close friends. And I just call them up and say, hey, I've got opportunities here. Do you want to make more money than what yours is making and sitting in the savings account? I can give you security of real estate. So, as long as you're buying good deals, worst case scenario is they can foreclose and take the house. And so it's really kind of it wasn't really a hard sell. I mean, yeah, people have to trust me, and they have to, believe that I'm not going to somehow run away with their money. But we have all these contracts in place, and they have a lien on the property. So that's pretty good security.
Sure.
And so it wasn't a hard transition.
So do you normally just work with one private investor for private money per deal? That's how you generally structure it? Or do you kind of use a couple to kind of get that? I believe you said like $30,000 to $40,000 per deal, like collectively.
Yeah, most
if we're asking too many questions that are part of the secret sauce, you can always defer.
Dude, I'm an open book. I ain't got no secrets. No, I have a minimum. Usually 25 grand is my minimum for a private investor. And it's just because it doesn't make a lot of sense for them or me if it's anything less. The payout's just not a bunch.
Sure.
But I have a lot of investors in that $25,000 to $100,000 range, and those folks have been okay with not having a lien on a property. So that's pretty easy. They virtually just invest in my business through a promissory note. We have a contract and everything, but I set those guys up on a 1-year contract. And so we say, for 1 year, this is what you've loaned Tidwell Properties. And at the end of that year, you will get this % back plus your principal. And I'll recycle that money through all year, through all the deals that I'm doing all year.
Okay.
And so that's been kind of nice to have, 6 figures worth of usable money that I can just flow into the deal, out of it, into the deal, out of it. But yeah, if the guys are bringing a lot more money, I've had guys bring $300,000 before for one deal. and they are tied to that deal. There's a lien on that property for them. And when that deal sells, they get their money back. Title sends it straight to them. I don't even send it to them. Title company sends it back to them.
Perfect. So yeah. I think that's great. So with all of this happening and you're, building the nest egg and then growing, scaling, allowing you to do, 15 to 20 flips a year, you have 5 deals right now. What's kind of the lifetime goal for Tidwell Properties and for you and your wife? Like what's that look like? And
yeah, we got to back up a little bit. Will we got to go over his top 2 or 3 worst flips, his top 2 or 3 best flips before we can hear what the rest of his life's like. I mean, I still want to know what the worst.
Well, I was trying to paint a pretty picture here.
Yeah, I want to know what
the ugly.
What was the worst flip you've ever done? Either from what's the worst flip you've done from a work angle, and what's the worst flip you've done from a financial angle? Because I know those might not be the same. That might not be the same property.
Or in the worst case, it is the same property, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So for my worst, from a rehab standpoint, I put $192,000 into a rehab of a 2,000 square foot house. So that one killed me. I found out after we bought the deal and were rehabbing it that it needed a full replumb. So, that blew the budget, and it had a pool, and the pool needed all kind of stuff that I didn't plan on it needing. And we just found one thing after another. We added a full bathroom. We added a bedroom. It was huge. And so I spent $192,000 on this rehab. I paid like $150,000 for the house, and I only made $16,000.
Oh man.
And I still made money.
Hey, did it lose?
It was. I would not have bought that deal if I'd have known in the beginning that I was going to only make $16,000 for that amount of rehab.
That amount of work. Yeah, that actually brings up a good point. Do you have minimums of deals, like ideal pricing strategies? Like I need to make $50,000 on every deal for my business to scale at X, because we've talked to a couple other people with me thinking directly as like a wholesaler. He says, for my business to cover all of my marketing costs, which is really great, because a lot of people, I feel like when they're listening, like wholesaling is a great way to get into it. You said you wholesaled your first deal. I wholesaled the deal whenever I first got into it as well. It's a great way to get introduced into it. But if you want to scale that business, ton of marketing costs. There's like a ton of costs just in general. So you have to understand when guys are making $5,000 or $10,000 on these wholesale deals, there's a reason, right? Especially with the guys that are scaling. So what does that look like for a flipper?
Yeah. I scale mine based on, I don't have just this one number.
Sure.
I kind of scale it based on how long is the project going to take. If it's a 1-month project, then I'm okay to make like $15,000. It's not a big deal. It's not a huge risk. There's not a whole lot that can go wrong. It's quick. But if I'm doing something that's going to be, a 6-month deal and I'm spending 6 figures on it, then usually $40,000 is my minimum for like a full big rehab.
Sure.
And it goes from there. Sometimes I haven't done anything that the ARV was over $600,000. But if I was, if there was something I was selling for 1.2 million or something, then I'd probably want to make $100,000, or at least prepare to make $100,000 on the
sure.
front. So it all depends on how much effort is it going to take.
Yeah, I'm curious. Was that one you did with the thin margin that had the pool and stuff? Did that change kind of what you look for in the future? Like now, do you like avoid pools per se, or do you still take flips with pools?
Yeah, I mean, I'll still take a flip with a pool. It's not we found that in Florida, it's actually a pretty good value. Houses with pools seem to go a lot quicker. People just like them in Florida. So, I mean, there are things that I probably wouldn't have done. That house had a layout problem. It had a whole addition that was on the back of the house, and there was just no good way to use that space back there. And so I've really focused on making sure layouts are good, like making sure the house just makes sense, that it flows right, that you're not, going through a bedroom to get to the laundry room, just weird stuff. Really try to make sure that the flow of the house is good, because that that throws people off. You can have this beautiful house, but if it's something weird about it and it's not functional, it doesn't really matter. It's going to hurt you.
Sure. It's all about those bones. Your house has to have good bones.
Yep. And I never got to my worst deal in terms of price. So I've never lost money on a deal, but my worst profit was $6,000. So my private investor on that one made like 5 times what I made. So I was like,
so sometimes it's just good to be the money.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think this is really great insight. But Sam, if you're okay with me asking,
now go ahead.
No, I want to know the flip side. With pun intended there. What are the best deals?
Yeah, one of the best deals. So my highest profit deal was $128,000.
Let's go.
And that was on a townhouse. That was 2.5 years ago.
Townhouse. Okay,
how
guys.
much did you have invested?
I bought it for $68,500, and me and my father-in-law worked on it ourselves pretty much solely. Like, I had someone come in and do drywall, but it didn't need a lot, and we kept stuff. Like, we repainted kitchen cabinets, and we just really tried to keep it cheap. We did a lot of work. It took 8 months because it was kind of on the back burner, and we got it so cheap it wasn't killing me. But we just did a lot of work ourselves, and I want to say we put $40,000 into it, and that doesn't count our sweat equity. That's not paying myself. Right. Sure. So we were all in at like $100,000 or $110,000.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did this happen to be in Perdido Bay Estates?
No. It
was
in Fort Walton Beach.
Oh, okay. Dang, because I was on an auction and I was like the second to last person, and I got outbid, and I remembered the price was $68,000, and I was like, okay, it's a townhome. It's probably sitting in there. It had to be the same deal. Okay.
No, I didn't take that.
Yeah, they're like, no way. This is the guy I was bidding against for like 35 minutes. It was just like, the auto bid, and it's like only going up 100. The other guy was going up 100. And I'm like, when is this going to end? But it went for like 68,400. I remember exactly what it went for. So I was like, this has to be the deal.
Right. It's gotta be. So,
yeah.
That one was killer. That was awesome.
Yeah, no, so six figure profit on about 6 figures invested. So yeah, I mean that's crazy. So you guys actually made more than y'all had invested in the deal. So
pretty much
over 100% return.
Yeah.
So one of the best returns I've heard of.
Yeah. And we didn't know the ARV jumped up like $40,000 while we were holding it, because this was in late 2021, early 2022. And so we held it for 8 or 9 months. Well, dude, the thing went up in value $30,000 just while we were holding it. I wouldn't even have to do anything to it.
That was actually probably one of the best years to ever take your time on flipping.
Yeah.
Because
blessed, man. I was blessed with that.
Yeah, no, I was actually thinking about that. You said it kind of took 9 months because it's on back burner. It's probably helping you guys that you guys put it on the back burner, because just the sitting kind of helped you at that moment.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah. Well, cool. What's the next 12 months looking like for you?
We're gonna keep flipping, of course. I was trying to. I went through this. I kind of went through a kind of pivotal point in my life and in my business about 6 months ago, where I really felt the need to scale up and to like hire a team and to really kind of grow this business. And I had all these reservations about doing it. I did not want to scale my business up to where it kind of controlled me. I wanted my freedom. And so I've kind of decided to hire out as much as I can and just keep saying yes to deals and see how many I can do before I have to hire somebody. And so right now, that's kind of where we're at. I'm willing to, as long as the money's there and the deals are there, I'm just saying yes to every deal I can. And if I have to step away from working on them more and more and more to just manage all the projects, then that's okay for now. But I'd like to see how, kind of like what the max is that one person can do by himself. And eventually we are wanting to buy rentals. That's to get to your question earlier, Will, is our end goal is to have enough rental properties with enough cash flow that it covers all of our living expenses, and then the flipping keeps going just for fun, and for active income.
I love it.
Yeah. No, that definitely sounds like a great plan.
So what was that pivotal moment 6 months ago? Like what I'm curious on that.
I mean, I don't know. It was real hard because I was in between both things, and it was weighing on me a lot. And I just felt this need to grow for some reason. And maybe it's just comparison. You see everybody else with these businesses and they've got teams and it's fun. And it just seems like the next thing to do is to start hiring people and scale up. But in the back of my mind, I didn't want to give up my freedom. If I wanted to go do something with my kids at 2:00 on a Thursday, I didn't want to have to call anybody or people go, well, he sure is taking a lot of time off. And I wanted that freedom. If I didn't show up, no one was going to call me and wonder where I was at. And so I just decided to go that route. I mean, freedom's what we want. Time freedom is the ultimate wealth, right? So if I can still be very profitable, take care of my family, still be growing, maybe slower, but growing, I was satisfied with that.
Awesome. No, that's amazing. No, I think there's a point in entrepreneurship where that, there's pivotal areas and things of scalability versus, time and all of those things. So being able to kind of hit on all of those in one just kind of shows all the listeners like a life cycle of an entrepreneur. Like there's a lot of work that goes into it, especially if you're a solopreneur or like, small team like yourself. Like you're marketing your deals, you're getting your deals, you're sourcing the deals, you're pitching the deals for funding. Like there's a lot more than just being hands-on or scheduling, right? So that's really cool that you were able to share that with us, and we got this time. You kind of you're over 4 in like 3 months, 4 years and 3 months of doing this, like full time. And so, it's just kind of that life cycle. And sometimes it happens quicker in businesses. Sometimes it's a little slower, but what do you think is the best way so far that you've noticed to get your first deal? Like kind of going back, like how do you get deals right now? I'm sure a lot of our listeners are really curious on that.
Sure.
And remember, guys, we're all here. There's so many opportunities, right? And just like Sam and I, and pretty much every guest that we have, we're totally, 100% backing you guys, and we'll look at deals and things like that and how we can best collaborate. So there's not really snaking deals. It's all helping and things like that. So just being conscientious of that, as Daniel is going to share some heavy insight, because like I said, like flipping has been a huge topic in request. And so being able to have you on the show has just been amazing. So.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. We get most of our deals through, honestly, through like 4 or 5 different channels. I don't have one channel that is the strongest. It's pretty even across the board. So some on MLS.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting. You on the MLS.
Yep.
Okay.
Some on there. If something just hit the market and it seems like a good deal, you got to be the first in there. It's kind of that old adage, you're either going to be first or last.
Sure.
And so if something's been sitting for 6 or 7 months, hey man, my wife will call a realtor, and she's great with relationships. And so she knows most of the agents who are doing a lot of deals, and she'll call them up and kind of get the inside scoop. And, hey, we could buy this. Do you think they come off the price? And she kind of works it. And so that's been one way to get deals on the MLS. I buy from wholesalers. I know a couple guys locally, and there's a little more competition with wholesalers. The MLS is the most competition because it's available to everybody. But I'll get some through wholesalers, and I have to, I probably go walk 10 or 15 houses before I finally get a deal. And I just offer what I can pay. The guy's asking $250, and if it makes sense at $200, I just send the offer. I expect that they don't even have it for that good of a price, but I'm just like, dude, this is what I can pay. And a lot of times, 2 or 3 times they've come back after a couple of weeks, like, are you serious at $200? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm ready to go. they'll say, well, we got the seller to come down a little bit. We can do 200. You just never know. So that's been great. And then a few here and there just from relationships. People that know we buy houses, people that know it doesn't matter the condition. Their grandmother may be getting older or going into a retirement home, and kids just do not know what to do with the house and don't want to go over there and clean it out. And just friends that know what we do. And they go, well, call Daniel and Mallory, see if they can give you an offer, see if y'all can work together. They're great people. They won't screw you over. So relationships is probably the third way.
Okay. Awesome. So MLS wholesalers, people that any other secrets of the trade?
I haven't done a lot of off-market marketing for myself. That's the side of the business that I do not like doing. I would not like wholesaling and off-market marketing, cold calling or all that stuff. I have a website and I've put out some signs before, and I've tried the cold calling, and I've gotten 1 or 2 deals over the last 4 years for my own direct marketing. So it's just not a big way that I like to get deals. I like the flipping side. I don't like the acquisition side.
Yeah, and everybody has to think that the side that they like. Just so we can kind of throw it up there, we'll have you say it again at the end, but you can never say it too many times. What's the name of your website?
Tidwell-properties.com.
Okay.
Perfect.
So everybody go check it out and then shoot some deals there. But man, I want to ask one of my favorite questions that I ask the guests, and I did steal this from Bigger Pockets. One of my favorite questions of Bigger Pockets. What's your favorite or top 3 favorite books that kind of helped you either get started or where you are today and made the biggest impact on your life?
I like the book The Go-Giver. It's not a real estate book, but that's an awesome book based on just providing value to people and not expecting anything in return. It's really, that's kind of how we like to live our life. I have the gift of giving. And so we're involved in our church. And so we give there regularly. And I just really love that book. It teaches to give with an open hand. And honestly, that's how we should be, that we should just serve others. So I really love that book, The Go-Giver. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad about 3 years after I started, and it didn't really blow me away. I know that's the book that everyone got started in real estate.
It's been on like every podcast that's been mentioned. So yeah, it didn't really blow me away.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe I already kind of knew what it was talking about.
Probably at the point in the journey when you read it, you were already familiar with a lot of the premise of that book.
Sure.
I love it. Sure. I love it though. No, I mean, guys, you can't get any better than that from the honesty side. I love it.
That's right. No, that's good. I'm not a huge reader. I've read several books and I have a hard time remembering what I read. But I'm a Christian, so I read the Bible pretty regularly. There's a lot in the Bible that just really, not only from the spiritual side, but just great wisdom in there about treating people right and doing the right thing, integrity. So I got to say the Bible in there.
I love that as a third option. I agree. I think the Bible's a great book.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's so much value in everything that you've brought together today on the podcast, and everything you shared, how honest you are. And this is always my favorite question. I know Sam's favorite question, but if I was new, or if there was someone new and they wanted to do what you do, what would be the best advice to help them get started?
So I would just get a little knowledge and a little know-how to give you a little confidence. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to get stuck there. So one of my biggest things that I had a tendency to do was gather too much information, and it paralyzes you. We all know it.
Analysis paralysis.
Right. So I would just gather a little bit of information to get your feet wet, just so you are not a complete idiot and starting off making huge mistakes. But then you just got to go. You just have to jump in. Like, even if you don't think you're ready, just start. And you're not. It's not as bad as your brain makes it think that it could be, because you always think worst case scenario. What if I lose $200,000? Dude, it's a house. You're not going to lose $200,000. Like, you got insurance on it. You can, like, your life is not going to be ruined because you started this deal. And then just go one step at a time. I mean, it's just that simple as one decision at a time. You don't have to know all 100 decisions over the next 6 months. You just have to know the next decision. And it's get a little information, then you just got to go, because you'll learn the quickest just doing it.
I love it. I love it. And something else I always like to ask is, with education and everything that's out there, there's always two sides of the coin. Are you a big advocate to get started and to partner? Or I know that your business is kind of, really close, tight-knit family. Like, what do you think? Do you think that's advantageous for people to get started who might have those 100 questions, worst case scenario? Or do you think it's better just like get your feet wet, hit the ground running, and you'll do it?
Did you say with a partner?
Yeah. Do you think it's important to partner up or just to hit the ground running?
Kind of depends on the type of person you are. I'm
Sure.
not huge on partnerships. I am
Okay.
partners with my private investors, but they're
Sure.
not involved in the flips. Like, they're not picking out paint or cabinets or anything. So I haven't been huge on partnerships. Now, I know that partnerships is how you really will scale up and grow. But if you're the type of person that's willing to just kind of get in there and you're a little bit independent, I would say don't worry about a partnership. But if you are just getting started, maybe both of you have a W-2 job and y'all want to work on it together, make sure you're partnering with someone who has complementing skills, kind of like you, Will and Sam. Y'all are, you're just different and you complement each other. You both bring something good to the table. And that may be a good way to get started, because you can both share the workload, and you both can share your skills, and get started that way. Me personally, I'm not huge on doing the partnerships, but if you're great at working with other people, and you're just getting started, it's not a bad way to go.
Okay. Yeah, no, we've had every episode honestly has been a different viewpoint. So I always like to kind of hear, because some people are extremely pro partnerships, some people are solopreneurs and more go-getters and are able to, just get after it with what they want. So, man, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
And I'll say too, just from things I've seen, I think Will and I have been great because we have been able to complement each other in ways, but you definitely see a lot of partnerships where they start strong, but then one person's doing something and the other person's taking time off, and it just doesn't seem fair to keep it. So yes, definitely make sure that if anyone is considering a partnership, that you guys iron out and outline everything on the front end, just so there isn't disappointment later. But I definitely think Daniel's got a really great setup with his family, and then just having his private investors as his kind of financial partners on the backside.
That's the goal, right? You want to be able to lift up the ones you love, right? So I really respect what you guys have built. That's amazing, especially like just jumping ship from Atlanta, going to a new area. I know that you guys are both from there, but not from there together. So that's just so cool.
Yeah.
Amazing story.
Go ahead. One thing I'd say, you were talking about people getting started. One thing we did that's not that conventional is we literally burned the ships behind us. So we had to succeed. So we left Atlanta. I left my job. I did not have the same job lined up coming down here to the coast. I had a little bit of knowledge. So, I'd gotten the boat a little closer to the dock, but we burned the ships. It was like, man, this has to work. I don't have a backup plan. I didn't hold on to a W-2 job. I just said all in, it's got to work.
You were making it happen.
It motivates you to, when you go from a regular income to no money coming in every month, you have a fire under you.
You got to get after it.
This might not be the most politically correct saying, but I've always believed that sometimes to be successful in life, you need a little bit more balls than brains. So definitely, I love that burning the ships and coming down here and just committing, because that commitment obviously worked out. I see you now 4 years later, flips in, and then and then just the time you got into it, knowing, I was flipping in that time, and I've kind of taken this past year and a half off from flipping, probably 2 years off from flipping actually, and just seeing you navigate through it, those interest rates jumping way up on you, because I know. In the 2020, 2021 time, rates were a lot better for flippers on that hard money, and it went up about 4 or 5 points for hard money.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I mean, those are the kind of some of the things that people that weren't in the industry I really want to show the strengths of what Daniel's doing, because he got in at a time where I think it was probably a little bit easier away, and then he went this extremely hard point of flipping where a lot of people got out, like I said, including myself. I've been sitting on the sidelines. So, like I said, I really admire you, how you were able to, work through it and keep going. And like I said, you're now like on a level of, a professional flipper. Like this is what you do. So it's really cool. Grateful to have you on the show, man. We just really appreciate your time.
Sure.
Totally.
No, thank y'all. I appreciate it. It's good, man. I just, they always say you're best suited to serve the person you once were. So if there's somebody just getting started, or done 1 or 2 flips, then hopefully, this would help them.
Yeah, dude. Thanks so much for being on. Where can we find you? I know you said Tidwell dash properties, right?
Yeah, that's just my website. That's more of a, kind of an off-market seller place where people can go and it's, hey, I give cash offers as is, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if people need to sell their house, you can go to that website. There's a form to fill out and some information. But if you just want to follow what I'm doing, I'm fairly active on social media on Instagram, Tidwell Properties on Instagram. I put up a lot of stories about the stuff we do, very hands-on.
I highly recommend you follow Daniel because of his stories. I mean, I've learned mailbox installation and a bunch of things just from watching his stories. So the cool thing, like I said, giving Daniel credit for what he's doing. Yeah, he really does showcase like, hey, this is what I'm doing today. This is how you can save a little money doing this. And so there really are a lot of really valuable tips for anyone starting out. I mean, me watching his videos is kind of wanting me to get back into flipping again, just because, like I said, you just are showcasing it so well.
Well, and I don't like to show just the good stuff either. So I'll show the bad stuff, man. We discover something. I'm going to lose money somewhere, or there's something disgusting. Like I'll put it up there, man, because that's life, man. Our lives are not highlight reels.
Yeah.
Ups and downs.
All right, it's flipping is not as just a smooth ride. There are some waves in there.
Sure, sure. We all have them.
Well, cool.
No
Well, Will, where can people find you?
Hey, catch anywhere that you can stream this episode, any place that you like to listen. Definitely click that like and subscribe to Elite Real Estate Podcast. Same with EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. You can check us out. You can also send us deals if you want us to review them. If you want to partner up as well. So it's a great place that you can connect with both Sam and I. And then also on our Instagram, mine is Elite REIFL .W McClellan, like William McClellan. You guys can hit me up there. And then Sam, I love to say it. Where can I find you on Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Sam_Florida Man. So send any kind of deals to the crazy Florida Man. Sam_Florida Man is my Instagram. And then again, the EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. Again, we appreciate Daniel coming on the show, sharing his knowledge. Obviously, you can see why we had him on. He knows how to flip. He knows how to make money. This is definitely someone that you want to follow if you're interested in flipping.
Yep, and just want to say big shout out every week to Clean Eats allowing us to do this podcast. It's just a real honor that business model is helping people, help people get in better shape, feeling good about themselves. And the best part is it's a slam dunk. It tastes amazing no matter what you pick. So shout out to Clean Eats to allow us to get Daniel on here. Daniel, I look forward to meeting you in person soon.
Thanks. That bison burger's on point, by the way, Sam.
Hey, we appreciate you coming in. So yeah, and
right.
we got Clean Eats locations in Mobile, Pensacola, Shalimar, and Tallahassee. So definitely come and see us at locations so you can get a bison burger as well.
Yeah.
No, thanks, guys. Really appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cool.